Good evening, all. Good evening. Thank you and welcome to Mayor Baraka's monthly women's meeting. We have a wonderful panel tonight. I do apologize for the delay. We have the honor of having our esteemed Central Ward Councilwoman, and we'd like to give her an opportunity to say some words. She has another event, so we want Lamonica Macgyver, Councilwoman of the Central Ward.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies. How y'all feeling tonight? Good. All right, y'all look good. It's the end of the day, but y'all looking good. First of all, let's clap it up for Natasha Allen, who's been putting this on for us and leading it, and her whole team for pulling it together. So I'm excited about being here, but I just wanted to leave one message with all of the ladies here, and I need for you to just remember it and do it immediately. So, one, we got to get more ladies here. That's number one, okay? You have got to tell people about this meeting. Other women, bring your friends. When it's time for us to go have a drink, to kick it, talk about our man problems, talk about our kids, it's a lot of us there. Ms. Roundtree laughing, but I'm serious. And so those same ladies, I need for you to grab them, text them tonight, and tell them about the next women's meetings. It's every fourth Thursday, right? Every fourth Thursday, and you can already give them the date, because you already know when the date gonna be. We know where the place gonna be, we know where the meeting's gonna be. It's gonna be here, fourth Thursday of the month at 6 o'clock. Text them right now, tell them. Text a couple of ladies, tell them, look, book in advance. Be here. We need to show up and show out, because we cannot, and I mean this, and I don't mean no disrespect to the mayor, because he know I love him and he coming right in. We cannot let no men outnumber us here. Okay? I want to be very clear. So, with him walking right in on that message, I'm letting you know to please bring your girlfriends, bring your friends, so we could pack the house and we could be ready for we have a wonderful panel who's gonna come up here, all of them I love dearly, who is gonna present to you, but we have got to be present here for the messages. So that's a deal? That's a deal? All right, thank you ladies, have a good meeting.
We want to thank Councilwoman Lamonica Macgyver for those words of encouragement. So we're going to move right into this. So we're going to ask our panelists to come up. We have Allison Ladd, who is the Director of Economic Housing and Development. We have Bernell Hall, who is the CEO of Invest Newark. We have Keith Hamilton, who is the Property Manager of Redevelopment. Aisha Glover, who is the CEO of Invest Newark, and we have Jerome Wakefield, who is the purchasing agent. We also have Mayor Baraka, who walked in the room, so we want to thank Mayor Baraka for giving us this opportunity to always have this women's meeting and to always be able to share our information with you. Mayor, are you moderating? Mayor isn't moderating. Are you speaking first? Well, let's give it over to Aisha Glover. Let's give us our panelists a hand, please, and thank you.
We were playing musical chairs to make space for you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Come on, ladies. Good evening, everyone. I know it's Wednesday, it's not Thursday, it's not Friday, but we're here. And for the record, we moved up from the press room, so it's way more ladies this month. So congratulations, Natasha, Dawn, everybody who's really helping to drive the fellowship. I did not know I was going to moderate, so I'm going to freestyle a little bit. That's all right? I think maybe we'll just start with sharing a little bit about our respective institutions just to help frame the conversation so everybody understands where we're coming from. And then I'm going to pose questions that I frequently hear from residents, from entrepreneurs, from business owners, from soon-to-be business owners, from people that really want to access the types of information that all my colleagues have. So I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate because sometimes y'all throw me the hard questions, so I finally get a chance to put the squeeze on some of y'all. And then maybe we'll just genuinely open it up and take questions as well. Does that sound all right, everybody? All right, cool. So I'm going to take moderator privilege and start. I'm the CEO at the Newark Alliance. Many of you have not heard of what the Newark Alliance is. It is basically just that, an alliance of every major corporation and anchor institution in the city of Newark. So they've come together and said they care about their impact in the city, right? And so it's not kind of a good old boys club, rubbing elbows and networking with one another. It's them really trying to think strategically about where they invest, how they're procuring their own products and goods, how they're hiring, and let's be real, a lot of that is institutional and has been going on for generations, right? And so for them to selectively, voluntarily say that they want to be at the table and be thinking collectively around what their impact is in the city is huge. That doesn't mean that we don't still hold their feet to the fire. The mayor frequently reaches out and has direct conversations with the CEOs, the chairmen, or the heads of these institutions. For the nonprofits, that might look like a chancellor, that might look like an executive director. And so kind of CEO, if you think of our city as a corporation and our CEO being the mayor, kind of CEO to CEO, he's putting the squeeze up there. And then as a nonprofit, we come in and really help to hold their feet to the fire and really ensure that they're kind of doing right by us in the city across a myriad of ways. So that looks like a major initiative called Hire by Live, which many of you have heard about for several years. That looks like Newark 2020. And so there's a range of initiatives that have been enacted in an effort to make sure that the corporations and institutions that are here are hiring locally, that they're buying and procuring their products and services locally, and that they're incentivizing their staff to live locally. So it's not this kind of in and out, I'm coming to work and I'm leaving. So those are some of the major initiatives underway at the Newark Alliance, and I'll talk about each of those a little bit more as we progress in the conversation. Thank you. I'm gonna turn it over to Keith Hamilton, so he can talk a little bit about property management here at the, within the city's Department of Economic and Housing Development.
Good evening, ladies. How y'all doing? My name is Keith Hamilton. I am the manager for city-owned properties and redevelopment. It is my job to maintain and convey the city's assets, the city-owned properties that we own throughout the city. Basically, that means that I work with individuals like yourselves and organizations that you may belong to in trying to acquire some of the city's assets for development purposes. So if you're interested in building on vacant lots, that's my office. If you're interested in purchasing a home for home ownership and you want to live in it and maybe make some income off of the property, if it's a multifamily structure and you have the ability to rehab one of those structures that we own, then that's the office that I run. I also am working with a few individuals in here right now on some projects. I know that they've come to my office a few times to discuss the process of acquiring property and are actually in that process as we speak. So I encourage you all to come up to my office. It's room 421. Make an appointment to speak to myself or someone in my office, and we can really see about doing some serious development in the city of Newark. Thank you.
Testing. All right, there we go. So I know that you have to leave a little early, so I'm going to throw a couple of questions your way before we move on.
Yes.
Can you walk the ladies through what the process actually is? Like, if I'm coming into your office, what should I expect? How easy is it? What do I already need to have lined up?
Okay, so it's not necessarily an easy process, and I say that with all due respect to people who are trying to acquire property in the city. It could be a drawn-out process, and the only reason why I say that is because there's some levels of bureaucracy that we have to go through in order for us to get from point A to point B. The process works like this. You identify some properties, or you identify a property that the city owns. You make your interest in that property known to my office. We tell you whether or not this property is available. If the property is available, then you write us a letter saying, I'm interested in purchasing this property. Once you submit the letter to me, I then give you what we call a preliminary designation. The preliminary designation basically says that you have to provide us with an executive summary, basically background information about who you are and who you're working with, a project description. So what are you going to build? Are you building a one-family home, a two-family home? Is this a rental property? Is it going to be a property that you're going to build and sell? Is it a property that you're going to flip? Is it a property that you're going to hold for you and your family? What kind of property is it? Is it going to be 2 or 3 families, or is it going to be one family for you and your family? And then you would have to provide us with an architectural drawing or rendering, something real simple. Not simple, but if you talk to an architect, they can draw it up real simply for you. And then a project timeline. You also have to show us your proof of funds. As well as a budget for what it's going to take for you to build out your project. So if you're going to build from the ground up, generally that takes about $200,000 to $300,000 to build a structure on 25 by 100 structure in the city. If you're going to do a rehab, you might have to have anywhere from $80,000 to $150,000 to rehab that property. So what we require in this process is for you to demonstrate to us, one, that you have assessed how much it's going to cost for you to do whatever it is that you want to do, and then beyond that, you have to provide us with the proof that you have the capability financially to actually do the project. Once you do all of that within a 60-day period, you bring that information back to me, then we process your information through our legislative process. It has to go through a series of steps, and then the council has to vote on this project. The council will vote, they approve your project, then you come back to us, and then we set up the process for you closing on the project. So all in all, this process can take anywhere from, depending on how fast you get us in the beginning, it could take us from anywhere from 4 to 12 months to actually finish the project.
Great. I was going to ask you that on length of time, and then a quick follow-up question. At a very basic level, how might someone find out if a property is city-owned or not?
So there's a few ways that people find out if a property is city-owned. One, if it's an actual structure, most of the time we have a sign on our structures that says this property is owned by the city of Newark. It's a black and white sign, rectangular sign. It has a telephone number, an office number, and people generally see the sign and then they call us and say, I saw the sign on this property, what's going on with this property? So that's one way. Another way is the city, we have a list of vacant lots that we provide that's outside on the table, that we provide to entities and individuals that's interested in acquiring a property. So they pick this lot list up, and then they go through the lot list, and then they inquire about what properties that they like that may or may not be available. Then they just submit something to our office. They submit it to, they can submit it physically, they bring the actual paperwork in, or they can send us an email. And the email is, if you've got pen and paper, you can write it down right now, but it's on the top of that list as well. It's ehdloi@ci.newark.nj.us. And you submit this email to us, and then we'll respond to the email basically telling you that this property is available, this property is not available. If the property is available, then what are your steps in terms of moving forward? Generally, if I haven't met you, or if you submitted something and I have not talked to you physically, or someone in my office has not talked to you, we would ask you to come in and just have a small conference with us and tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and assess your capabilities in actually making this project work. After that conversation, if we are, in agreement with what you're trying to do and we like what you're presenting to us, we will move this particular project forward.
Great, and that list is outside on the table in case anybody didn't grab it already.
Yes. I'd also like to mention that we are looking to have an auction coming up the beginning part of the spring. And I would encourage everyone to be a participant in that process as well. Many people don't actually win in that part of the process because they don't participate. And I try to encourage everybody that I know to participate in actually coming to the auction. And if you have your coins, if you have some dollars, if you have some money, and maybe you might not have it alone, but if you have it with your sister or your cousin or a few friends of yours, y'all come together, y'all put your money together, and then y'all can start off with a seed property right there, getting it from the auction.
Okay, and then last question, besides purchasing a home, the auctions, is there anything else that falls within the purview of property management, maybe foreclosures or anything else that you want to share with our guests?
So we really don't handle foreclosures per se. Foreclosures are how we actually acquire properties. The way that the other things that we deal with are adopt-a-lots. So if individual or entity would like to lease a lot from us for a period of time to grow vegetables, or maybe they want to just beautify a lot that's been sitting in their neighborhood for a while, that's really causing a lot of problems in terms of illegal dumping. You have the ability to come to our office, inquire about that lot, and then if we own it and there's no development happening on that lot, we would encourage you to be a participant in that process as far as adopt-a-lots. We also deal with vacant properties and abandoned properties in people's neighborhoods. So if there's a property that you identify in your neighborhood and it's sitting there and it's causing problems, we may not be aware of it, although we do have inspectors that go out daily to try to identify properties in the city. If you see these properties, you can report those properties to my office, and we will make sure that this property is registered as a vacant property, and then we will begin to collect fees on this property to encourage the homeowner or the property owner to either maintain this property the way it's supposed to be maintained, sell the property, or occupy it.
Great, thank you, Keith, I appreciate your time.
Welcome.
We'll turn it over to Burnell Hall, who's the CEO at Invest Newark, and I'm not going to dictate what you should talk about, but I think it will be helpful for you to focus on the small business and entrepreneurship side of your house.
Thank you, Aish. Good evening, ladies. Burnell Hall, President and CEO of Invest Newark. First and foremost, I want to thank Mayor Baraka for the invitation, and I also just want to thank you all for being here. So Invest Newark is the city's economic development corporation. We are also going to be administering the city's land bank, but per Aisha's instructions, we'll focus on small business development.
It's in the ladies' house.
We are in the ladies' house.
Take the direction.
And we will act accordingly. So Invest Newark works in lockstep with the Department of Economic and Housing Development, as well as the Newark Alliance, to actualize the mayor's vision for equitable growth in the city of Newark. As it relates to small business, that actualization really comes in three forms. We really focus on making sure Newark businesses are literate, legitimate, with access to capital and opportunity. So how do we go about doing that? In terms of literacy, we're really speaking on financial literacy and improving business acumen for our local entrepreneurs. And we do that through a variety of training programs that we offer throughout the year in various areas throughout the city. Examples of such are our Language of Capital series, which is a 12-week program where we really focus on making sure people are understanding the back office operation associated with the business, so that, whatever it is that you do well, if it is making gadgets or running a restaurant, you can focus on that because you now know how to market your business. You now know how to read your financial statements. You now know how to plan for talent acquisition and human resource management. And you're positioning your business for investment from banks as well as other investment. So we also focus on making sure our businesses are legitimate. And what does that mean? We basically want to make sure that businesses in Newark are bonded, insured, licensed, and certified for larger opportunities. One of the things that we found in talking to many of you, because many of you are very, have a lot of familiar faces, so I know many of you already take part in these programs, but what we've heard from you is you're having a hard time getting access to larger opportunities because people are asking for bonding at a certain level, or insurance at a certain level, or licensure. Well, we want to make sure that you get all of the information and support you need to get these legitimacy points in place so that you're able to work with the city's procurement office as well as other anchors and other government agencies to get larger contracts so you can grow your business in place. And then lastly, we're really focused on creating more access to opportunities as well as capital. And as it relates to access to opportunities, we are working on revamping our website so that it contains a business portal which aggregates procurement opportunities for anchor tenants in one place so the small business owners and entrepreneurs such as yourselves can go to one place and find opportunities to bid on contracts. We also are going to create a business directory so small business owners such as yourself can actually advertise your business without incurring tons of marketing costs, which tend to disrupt your ability to gain the visibility you need to monetize your service or your product. And then lastly, as it relates to access to capital, as part of our relationship with the city, in partnership with the city, we serve as the Urban Enterprise Zone Development Corporation. As part of that, we do two things. We certify businesses as UEZ businesses if they are in the urban enterprise zone, which gives them certain tax benefits. And then we also, in certain instances, we provide investment dollars so that people can get the capital necessary to grow their business. So I'm sure there'll be other questions, and we'll talk about how you can get access to those programs as the evening progresses.
So I just want to ask you a similar question to Keith, which is really like, walk me through a process. I'm a small business. Where do you start if I'm not taking taking advantage of one of your training programs and you want to help legitimize me? And I think it would be helpful to explain what you mean when you say that. What might that look like as an individual entrepreneur or small business in terms of navigating the offerings of Invest Newark?
So first and foremost, I would hope you are taking advantage of our training programs, and we have a lot of handouts to give you information on how you would do that. But as it relates to legitimizing your business, there are several organizations that we partner with to really walk people through the process of becoming, let's just use certification, for example. We pay consultants to participate in a quarterly MWBE certification program that has been held in various parts of the city so that people can certify their business via submission to the state, submission to various federal organizations, or submission to the city in such a way in which you can say, I am a MWBE or I'm a woman-led business. There are certain advantages in terms of vending with my business, right? Those forms in many cases are 20, 30, 50 pages long. So what we've done is we've really tried to expedite that process by getting consultants in place that can help you with that, or at least direct you on how you can do it in a more efficient manner so you can have access to greater opportunity.
So that's step one, ladies. Like, you have to be certified. I got a call or email recently excuse me, from somebody at the Port Authority who said that they've released several RFPs and they're getting 0 responses. So that's at the bare minimum, you have to be certified. Your next step is you have to respond when these opportunities arise. So Burnell, can you talk just a little bit about how people can kind of expand their networks or ensure that these opportunities come on their radar?
Yes. I think word of mouth is obviously the best way to communicate. Again, we're going to continue to plug these programs because what we found is, like I just used the Women Who Enterprise program that we launched last week. There's a lot of joint ventures and networking and synergies happen to where people who didn't necessarily do business together prior to are getting together and are allowing the joint operations to get greater levels of bonding or take on larger contracts. Obviously, you know, everyone is going to do what's best for their business, but one of the things that we definitely want to encourage, besides just responding to RFPs, or looking at RFPs and saying, oh, that's too big for me, or I don't have that level of bonding capacity, we also are really encouraging you all to, where it makes sense, look to partner with one another.
Great, thank you. So I guess now we will turn it over to Jerome Wakefield, who's the Director of Purchasing here.
Good evening, ladies and visitors. My name is Jerome Wakefield. I'm the purchasing agent for the city of Newark, and my responsibility is secure goods and services in the most cost-efficient way. And part of the mayor's vision, however, is that we increase the number of local businesses, women and men, that contract with the city, so making opportunities available to them to contract. Now, it is a process. It does have legal requirements, but we can help you with that, okay? But you have to be in the game. You have to be in it to be a part of it, all right? One of the things that I've noticed, even particularly with the men, is that they're here and they're excited and they do it, but then you have to follow up, okay? You then have to submit something, join something, right? And the easiest way for us is to register online with the city, and it's at newarknj.gov/central purchasing. And when you go online, it then says register to do business with the city. And when you register, you can then tell us what good or what service that you have to provide. Be broad in that, and if you have any difficulty with registering, you can call our office, right, at 973-733-3776. Now, recently, we've had created a designated day that you can come up to purchasing department, get on the computer with a staff member, and register if you're having difficulty, right? That you can do it on your own, at home or at your business, but if you're having difficulty, you can call.
And what day is that?
And that's going to be Wednesdays, all right? And you can actually come to our office, and we'll help. Hopefully you navigate it on your own, but if you have any difficulty, don't be inhibited, please come, right? The other thing that we have planned with Invest Newark coming up is that we're going to have a completion of document session, all right? Because there are some very intricate documents, and some documents systemically will you know, discourage people from doing it, and there's some of them that could knock you out of the box altogether. So we want to show you how to complete those forms, how to navigate them, so the form itself doesn't act as a barrier, right? Now, we have, and I'm hoping, I'm going to put out here today on the table, there's a list here that identifies the goods and services that we do put out contract for, right? So this list, that tier, and I'm going to put them on the table, please pick up one. That list is for bids under $40,000 per year, goods and services that we do, right? So you can start small. If you're a new business, a fresh business, you know, until you can build your capacity, right? So get that list and see what it is that we ask. Now, the bigger ones, the one I'm talking about now is what we call informal solicitations, right? You go to 2 or more vendors, and the agency determines what their need is, and they reach out to see who's going to satisfy that need. And the bigger ones, we have to actually put out a package. We have to advertise legally. You have to compete and bid against others. Okay, and then it's the lowest price, that person that's most responsible. Responsible means you have the ability, the capacity, the equipment, the staff, whatever is needed to satisfy the service or the good that we request, right? And then responsive means that you answer everything that we ask you in the package, right? Because there are legal requirements, not just that we're asking for the sake of asking, but the local public contract law and other codes and regulations require that, right? And so we don't want you to be confused. We don't want you to be discouraged, because for some people it could be daunting, right? And when a door closes one, don't get discouraged, knock again, right? And so we want you to be a part of that. And there's others who have contracts with us and big contracts, and they don't want people that look like you and look like me, that's either male, female, small, or whatever, to benefit or to be at the table eating. So you have to know that. So if they put up barriers and you get discouraged, you really didn't want that, right? So we're saying we want you at the table. We want you to be a part, but you have to do your due diligence, right? You can't come in and I like to say to people all the time, even the men, right? We do a hand up, not a handout. So we don't expect you to just come and say, I ain't fill out nothing, don't nothing. You handle that. Okay, so that's what it is.
So I just want to underscore with some numbers and data. So when the mayor first came in office, the city was purchasing about 3% of its goods and services with Newark-based vendors and suppliers. Last year, we closed out at a little over 30%. So this is not, it's not lip service, it's not kind of saying, you know, we want to work with you, the city is trying its best. Like, they are legitimately trying to kind of prime the pump, make sure that you're prepared to be responding to these bids and these opportunities. They're going to assist you with the paperwork. There are workshops and trainings, and the reason why I said even if you don't want to do that, sometimes you can't. Sometimes people just don't have the time to dedicate to a training. So there are additional resources and connections that you can make sure to take advantage of to assist you. So I just wanted to underscore the fact that the numbers are showing indeed that the city is committed. On the private sector, on the corporate side, they actually haven't done as well as the city has. So they've gone from about 4% to 12%. And so we're working collectively to vet the businesses, to make sure that they're able to provide not only for the city, but for some of these major corporations that are based here as well. So Jerome, before we turn it over to Director Ladd to close out, can you talk about some of the common mistakes that you see as folks are coming in and trying to become a supplier with the city? What are some common mistakes that folks make?
One is failure in the registration process to put all the pertinent information, what your business is, what your telephone number is. You know, it really, you know, it's a pet peeve of mine when people give a telephone number, something as simple as that, and they give you 3 of them, and all 3 of them are disconnected, right? Or they give you an address for their business at that Bobo's house, and the mail is rejected, right? Or when you fill out forms, right, you have to read. Reading is fundamental with this, right? Now, understand this, the people with the bigger corporations and that's been doing it for a while, they have lawyers reading for them. They have accountants reading for them. They have friends. So, and this is not, you know, to cast an aspersion on anybody, but if you can't read, get your buddy to read it. Get somebody, get an accountant, get a public relations, or go to the organization like Invest Newark or somebody like that. We've just did an expo at the waterfront. We did one at Trek. We want you to come in to learn, but like I say, hand up, not hand out. You have to do your due diligence, right? When you actually do contracts, right? Some people, when we're trying to execute the contract, there's a form for you to fill out that says, sign here, your business, right? And then they have the business administrator or they have the purchasing agent, and the vendor signs as the business agent or the business administrator, right? That slows the process. We have to send it all the way back, right? Then they have there's some forms that's fatal, like the stockholder statement. That's by law, not by us. You have to designate who has more than 10% in your business and put them on there. They'll put their name, no signature. They'll put a person's name, no signature, no business, right? And then it goes through the process, it has to get rejected, right? And those things are what we call fatal. There's no recovery from that, right? So the mistakes are, take your time, read these forms, and get someone to help you with these forms. We're not trying to impose upon you the additional burden of hiring a lawyer, paying that expense, but some of these things you can do yourself or do with some help, right? And build a capacity. So those are some of the main barriers that we have in filling out documents. Or if we tell you to fill out a form, you know, fill it out. Don't send it back in blank. If we tell you that the bid opening is at 10:15 and you're not allowed to come in after that, you can't show up at 10:25 and say, I was, you know, my baby started crying in front of the building. It's understandable, but not acceptable, right? So you have to show up to be on the game, on time and in time.
I hope you use that same example at the men's meeting, Jerome, because we was all thinking it.
Well, I came close with the men,
All right,
but they got to show up.
Thank you. So I just want to turn it over to Director Ladd, publicly congratulate her on her recent appointment as a Deputy Mayor and Director of Economic and Housing Development.
Thanks, Aisha. And thanks, Mayor, for creating a women's meeting, just like you have for the men. It's great. I'm Allison Ladd, the new Director of Economic and Housing Development. I started in August. I moved here from Washington, D.C., where I spent my career down working in different jurisdictions like D.C. and Maryland, and doing a lot of what we're doing here in Newark. So it's great just to be part of a team of those that are here on the stage, but with the mayor and others in the cabinet that were just trying to advance Newark forward. So it's really exciting just to be here, and I thank you for allowing me to come before you. I wanted to talk a little bit about economic and housing development as a department, and also give a few tips. I think that that's partly why you're all here, is for us to also give you some opportunity and access to information that'll help you succeed. So I can talk through, we have about a half a dozen different programs and services at Economic and Housing Development Department, but what I thought I'd tell you are the things that you might be most interested in. So for instance, the things I'll talk about are funding to buy a house, funding to renovate a house, how you can become a developer, how you can access funds to do the development, and how you can be part of the vision of the future of the city of Newark. And that'll touch on a lot of what we do at the Economic and Housing Development Department. So first, buying a house. I know the mayor talks a lot about it. I know it was important to me when I bought my first place, is how am I going to afford down payment and closing cost? It's expensive. Right now, I know that it's not easy to save. And so it's not easy to have that 10%, sometimes 20% that you need to buy a house. But here in Newark, we have a program called Live Newark. Live Newark is a down payment and closing cost assistance program that provides $5,000 to the person who wants to purchase that house and live in it. So it's got to be your primary residence. And what we'll do over the next 5 years is we'll forgive it. You have to stay in good standing. You have to still live in the home, but we'll provide $5,000 to help you become a homeowner if you're not already. The second thing we have as part of that program is we have a rehabilitation program. So if you already own your house, but it's older, or it needs a new roof, or you're looking for a way to improve something that needs improvement on your home, we have a part of Live Newark that actually is a rehabilitation program. And it's $15,000 that's available for you to be able to receive to renovate your home. Similar to the down payment and closing cost assistance program, this rehabilitation program is also forgivable over 5 years, but it has to be your primary residence. You have to own the home, and you can't sell or transfer it during that 5 years. But both of those are great ways for you to access money today that'll be forgiven over a 5-year period that allows you to either be a homeowner or renovate the home you already live in, because we want you to stay in Newark. So that's one thing. The second one is about wanting to become a developer, be part of what's happening here in Newark, access land, access capital, be part of what Keith is talking about. Buy your lot, buy multiple lots. Maybe they're on your block or in your neighborhood. But what we're doing that I think is really creative in EHD, and they did start this before I got here, but I love it, is a program called the Neighborhood Development Program. It's right now in the West Ward. We're working with 9 developers that are really trying to do what all of you may want to do, own part of the future of Newark. And so of the 9 developers, 2 of them are women. Now we need more. So if you're looking to do, oh, 3? Oh, Keith told me 3, even better. It's even better. So 3 of the 9 developers are women. And one of the great parts about this neighborhood development program is that the 9 organizations come together regularly to talk about how the projects are going, what some of the barriers to entry are, what some of the challenges are to access funds, what do we need to do about planning and zoning. Just, we're trying to help solve all of those challenges that we might not be able to do ourselves, but we're doing it together. And the Economic and Housing Development team is present and there, and I've been attending the meetings too, so we can navigate solutions to help us access success faster. And I think that's one of the great things about what we're doing here in Newark is we're trying to figure out how to level set, how to bring equitable opportunity to those that are part of the city. So I think that neighborhood development program, we're working to do a second cohort. This first time around, we had 9. We're going to do it again. So if you're not in the development business and you're interested, let's start having those conversations now so we can get you ready to be part of that next cohort. The second part about development is accessing funding. It's not, Keith told you the numbers. It's not always something, again, that we have in our savings account or we're ready to do that right away. So part of what we do at the department is we also have funds available. They are done on a competitive basis. We have federal funds and local funds, and that does take some time, so we got to pre-plan it. But we do have some gap financing. So by that I mean, if your property in the project is $200,000, you can borrow $150, but you need $50,000 to make the deal work. Then that's the $50,000 is the gap. And so that gap financing is something also that we provide in EHD, is funding that helps make development work when maybe we don't have enough that we could either borrow or we already have saved up. The last part is really about being part of the future. And this is really the visioning aspect and looking at how do we develop the city of Newark going forward. And for that, our office is handling something called the master plan. The master plan is something we have to do by law, so it's something we're required to do, but we're also trying to look at it as how do we decide what we want the city of Newark to look like in the future and for the next 10 years. So we're embarking on this process right now, and we're gonna need all of you to help. And here's how we're gonna ask you to help is, we named the plan already, Newark 360. Now, I don't know about you, but 360, I thought a lot of things about what 360 would mean. Maybe it's different angles, maybe we're looking all the way around, I'm not sure. But in talking to our planner, Chris Watson, who created this great idea, it's 360 meetings over the next 18 months. I know, I heard it. Me too. So it took a couple times for him to actually tell me it, and I truly got on board because 360 meetings in 18 months is significant, but it's right. And here's why it's right. Because we know that we look at about 20 different neighborhoods across Newark. We want to be present in every single one of those neighborhoods. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from your friends. We want to hear from your family about what you want the city to look like. And then we're going to put that as part of our vision for the future. And that will be how we're also looking at land use and zoning and really deciding how we're going to develop the city. And then we're going to need a lot of concurrence and suggestions from our mayor and from council because there's additional processes associated with this. But we're starting with the community. And so that's Newark 360. And then the last part about the vision is just to say, well, we're also managing something called the Equitable Growth Commission. Some of you may have heard of that. The mayor created it last year. There are 15 members, mostly private sector, some institutions, and what we're doing on this Equitable Growth Commission is developing definitions around equity, definitions around what the principles of equity are, but we're also looking at what type of recommendations do we have to make and implement to ensure equity occurs. So we're going to look to figure out ways that we actually can change the current landscape to be more equitable for those in this room and those outside of the room, but many of you in the room, and we're going to figure that out together. So you'll hear more about that over the next year and a half. This is a 2-year commission. We're going to try to put milestones in it so that there'll be more, what would you say, reporting out so you know more about what we're doing. But that's another piece. So just as I close, I just wanted to give you a couple tips. I think some of them have been said. Is one, it's well said before that be persistent and be patient, because it's going to take all of that effort and energy to get through the process that was talked about today, whether it's networking, whether it's coming to a session, whether it's figuring out the forms, or what have you. We're all smart women. I know that already because we're all here. And so I know that we're going to be able to figure it out together. So with that, I just say that that's a big piece of, I think, of what we can do is be persistent and be patient. The second part really is networking. I don't know about you, but a lot of where I started and where I am today had to do with how I learned from other people and what I learned from other people and listening to what other people advise me. And sometimes I can be stubborn, and so I don't want to hear it. But at the end of the day, sometimes somebody else's perspective is the exact one that we need. And then the last thing is, and Mayor, I know you know I'm going to say this, but it's the eat the frog. So is the eat the frog saying, I don't know, I'll just ask this question, has anyone heard eat the frog? Oh, good, there's a couple. Okay, oh, yes. Okay, so for those that haven't heard Eat the Frog, I'm going to tell you the statement, and then I'll close out and give it back to Aisha. And then I know there may be questions as to say, okay, Eat the Frog. It's a Mark Twain saying. The saying goes, if your job is to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. If your job is to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. And so really take it to heart, because our jobs are challenging, the work that you're doing is challenging, and sometimes we got to figure out how to prioritize. And so some of it has helped me even manage my day-to-day, whether it's in this job or a job I've had before, and how do we advance whatever goal we have. But here in Newark, we're going to advance Newark forward. So thanks.
Thank you. So I guess before we open it up for Q&A, I'd just like to invite the mayor up to share a few words. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'm not going to be long. I have to come to make sure I show up to the women's meetings, or else people will be harassing me that I speak at the men's meeting, I don't come to the women's meeting. But it's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad it's growing and more of us are coming out. And I heard the councilwoman say, make sure more people come out. So you need to do that. You need to make sure, more folks come out. I debate with people. People in my communications office tell me I shouldn't go back and forth with people on social media, but I just can't help myself sometimes. You know what I mean? Listen, I'm from Newark. At the end of the day, you're just not going to say anything you want to me. But we go back and forth. And most of the time people don't have information, and that's key. Like, we need to make sure we get the right information. And it's easy to say wrong information when, of course, you don't have your real name up there and a picture of something else. But it's important to get the right information, and we need I want you to get the right information so you can do the right things, right? There are 2 types of people. It's people that's going to talk, and that's all they're going to do. They're going to talk and talk you to death. They're going to continue to talk and talk about what they're going to do, talk about what ain't right, talk about what should be done, but they're not going to do anything, right? Then there are folks who are already committed to getting it done. And I look at the folks in here as people who want to get things done, right? You want to build, you want to grow. You're not watching stuff happen to you, right? You want to make sure things happen because of you, right? And that's why you in these spaces, to make sure that things happen because of you, that you're not somebody else's doormat, right? Nobody's going to come and walk all over you. You're going to be in charge of your own destiny, right? You're going to be in charge of your own family, your own community. You're going to make decisions about what's going on in your life, in your community's life, right? You're going to own property. You're going to buy property. You're going to own businesses, right? The city of Newark spends over $100 million a year just on goods and services, right? You need to be finding out what goods and services we're buying, right? And then what goods and services all these other institutions in the city are buying, because they're all buying something. What are you selling? Everybody can't have a beauty parlor. Everybody shouldn't want to have a beauty parlor. Somebody got to sell pens, paper, ink, lumber. Somebody got to cater to food. Somebody got to do all the other things that we purchase. You need to find out what we're purchasing, right? If Aisha said they went from 4% to 12%, that means there's a whole big chunk of number that they're not getting from us, right? Huge number. And we did good. We went to 30%, but that's good. But there's 70% more things that we're purchasing that we're not buying from you, right? And so you have to figure out what that is. I mean, it's good that we clap, but find out what the 70% is and see if you can sell it. See if you can get involved in that business. That's what you need to do. And sometimes you can't do it by yourself. You have to get with somebody else. The thing that I love that has morphed into some of these men's meetings is some of the guys have finally gotten together. It took us a minute because we got to beat down the culture of self-hatred, because that's part of what the meeting is about. We got to challenge each other's self-hatred and our envy and jealousy towards one another and our desire to tear each other up. So we got to do that first to get them the courage to even partner with each other. To say, hey, bro, I got this thing. I want you to be down with it, right? And so they begin to do that and begin to form their own companies together so they can go out and do the things that they couldn't do on their own, right? We had a discussion at our directors meeting about making sure these lead service lines that we're replacing, $120 million out there, that the last group or the last bid that we put out, that we make sure it goes to a minority as the primary, not a subcontractor, as the primary, right? But we had a conversation about, in order for that to happen, we have to figure out how to get these small groups together so they can have larger bonding capacity, so they can be able to purchase the machines, so they can do the things they need to do. But then we have to fight through some things in order to make that happen. Those are the things that we don't talk about in the business side of it. That's why I come up at the end to handle the other side of it, right? The real side of it that's preventing us from actually doing business. There's a big gap. There's a gap between what these people say, what I say, and it actually getting done. There's a gap. And that gap is huge with our own personalities, with sometimes our laziness. And I'm not talking about you guys, right? I'm talking about us up here, right? And the culture of thinking that you can't do it. So we spend a lot of our time and effort working on other people's projects, huge ones, and that's important. And we do this stuff, and we overlook you guys who come in here, you really want to get this done, who we need, that's necessary. We're fighting with the municipal council now about this land bank, right? Because in some magical way they believe that the council and the mayor's office can get all these properties developed without the land bank. If that was the truth, we would have done it 20, 30 years ago. Right? It's so much vacant property in this city, so much vacant land, so many abandoned buildings in this property. We have to be able to get it to you without all the bureaucracy, because there's a lot of bureaucracy on our side. So when we give it to the land bank, it makes it easier for us to give you or administer the property to you and give you the necessary tools you need to develop it, right? And that's what Burnell was talking about. And that takes serious execution, takes serious work, takes serious-minded people, and it takes a sense of urgency. You can't be slow walking thinking you're going to fix this thing. You know, I was an educator, and the thing that always bothered me when I was a principal was that people, because we start off behind, and people think that in order for us to catch up, that we need to take all these remedial classes, right? That's what they give you, right? If you don't pass English, you got to take English 5 times in order to pass it, the same class over and over again. You got to take one, and in college too, you take all these remedial classes. The problem with that is you'll never catch up because you don't slow down to catch up. If you're always slowing down, you'll never catch up. At some point, it's not fair, but you have to work harder than everybody else. In order to get faster, you got to train harder than everybody else. You got to put more time in than everybody else. You got to think differently than everybody else thinking, right? So when you come to us and we treat you as the same pace as we treat everybody else, we are deliberately slowing you down without even knowing it and keeping this gap the same. We're keeping it the same. If I treat you like we treat a big-time developer who comes in, who has all this equity, all this money, all these investments, can buy 5 or 6 properties on their own without a tax abatement, but they ask for a tax abatement because they don't want to spend their own money. And if I treat you like that, you'll never catch up. You'll never catch up. And so we have to do things a little differently for the ladies that are sitting in this room. Right? And we have to do things a little differently for those guys. We had those men's meetings. We have to do things differently. And it's a culture shift. It's a change. Because we talked about this at our church, we busy trying to treat everybody fair. The problem is it ain't fair. Right? It ain't fair. So our lens of fairness is different than everybody's lens of fairness. Equity makes it fair to us. Right? And so in order for us to make it equal, then we have to do a little something more to provide you the opportunity to make sure that when you run 10 yards, that is also a first down, like when everybody else runs 10 yards is a first down as well. And that means we might have to work a little harder. And it means you have to work a little harder. So if both of us are working a little harder, we can get there. But if you're working hard and we ain't, then you ain't getting there. But if we working hard and you not, then we still not getting there, right? We're going to have to work a little harder. We have to do a little more. Yes, it's upsetting. You have to do this. So what? So what? So what? We've come a long way from people who had to do so much. This little corny stuff you have to do is nothing compared to what other people had to do. So what? Suck it up. Get up there and make it happen. Complain later. Complain later. When I was coaching, I used to tell my children, listen, look, we got to beat by 20 in order to beat by 10. When we go play these people out there, they're going to cheat. I used to say it, yes, as the coach. They're going to cheat. Listen, we got to beat by 20. In order to beat by 10, we have to beat by 20. And I don't want you yelling at the referees. Why? Because it doesn't matter. Play the game. When you win, then let us talk to the referees. Say what you did was not right, you know. But we trying to win. We don't want to stop the game and complain and still lose. We complaining and complaining and complaining and Facebooking and Instagramming and whining and complaining, and we still getting our butt kicked over and over and over again. You got to win the game. That's what we're here doing. We're trying to play so we can win the game. We want you to win the game. That's what it's about. That's why you're in here. You're trying to win. If you didn't want to win, then you shouldn't be in here. This is the winning meeting. Right? That's what this is. So I want you, we expect you ladies to do big things. We expect big things to happen from you, right? We expect it. I know Adina came and spoke to y'all one time. The other sister with the laundromat came and spoke to y'all one time. You got some good people that are out here making things happen, right? You have many folks come and talk to you about the work that they're doing. You need to duplicate that and begin to get it done yourself and begin to figure out how to partner with people. Right? And then we have a family meeting too. I know some of y'all been there, some of y'all haven't. We bring everybody together. We put the men and the women in the same room. And we split up for a reason. People ask me why we do that. Because listen, we do that for the men do that for us really, because we got to deal with some stuff, right? So we have to deal with some stuff that we harboring. And we need to straighten it out so we can go out here and do business and take care of our own families and our communities the way we should. Right? That's what we dealing with, right? And because we having a men's meeting, we have to have a women's meeting, right? But ultimately, the trick is we want to have a family meeting, because in a men's meeting we talk about how the family is the smallest unit of business, and that we haven't understood that families come together for business, right? That other people's families and tradition, they understand that. They join families together to make themselves stronger. When families join, the clan gets bigger. It gets stronger, right? We put all ourselves together, all our brain, our energy, our resources together so we can be bigger, so we can live longer, so we can pass stuff down from generation to generation. And we have to figure that out. And it's hard for us. We know what's going on in our community, so we do need to split up to come back. And we do that purposefully. The last thing I'm going to say is, I just left doing a podcast talking about the same various things that we're talking about today. And one of the discussions were, well, what happened to all the businesses that we used to have in the city, right? So we have to learn how to keep our legacy. You can't sell Big Mama's house all the time. You can't do it. It's leverage. That's equity. You can't do it. You got to figure it out. Y'all got to get together and figure it out. Pay the taxes together, something. You can't sell it. You got to keep it. The family business, you can't throw it away. You got to keep the family business. Right? Jay's is gone. John's is gone. Miss Stewart's is gone. What happened? You got to keep the family business. You can't walk away. Well, I was at the port. The gentleman at the port said his father opened up that business in the 50s. Where we at now, he still got the same business. Still today, we throw the business away because it ain't interesting to us. The heck with it being interesting? We trying to take care of ourselves, right? How many of y'all got life insurance? Now, when I ask the men, them hands going to be down. I'm going to ask them at the next meeting. I know they ain't got no life insurance. I know they ain't got no life insurance, right? How they passing anything down to their family? So if something goes wrong, everything is over. Everything is over. I mean, those things are important, right? We don't have life insurance. We don't have a will. We don't have anything, right? And we need to we need all of these things, right? We got to put all of this stuff together because we are trying to pass our wealth down. We're trying to pass wealth. We're not trying to pass money down. You're trying to pass wealth down. You're not trying to pass money down. Not your bank account, your wealth, what you own. You got to pass that down. Can't pass money down. Money is a tool to help you get wealth. Money is like a hammer to help you build wealth. That's not what it is. You see them people on Instagram with all this money? That don't mean nothing. It's going to be gone that weekend. Then they got to go and rap some more so they can get some more of that to put on their ear. If they don't have no shows, that's going away. They have to invest and build something. You think Dr. Dre made all that money because he was rapping or DJing? Of course not, right? He began to invest and build wealth. You have to build wealth, and that's really what this is about, right? Can't nobody take your city unless you give it to them. That's it. That's it. Your building on your block been abandoned for 30 years. You ain't have one thought about buying it. Somebody come and purchase the building. Now you're at the council meeting fussing. They've been abandoned for 30 years. You done had a generation of kids around there. Now somebody bought it. Now you at the council meeting, a long line fussing. Not once, but 10 council meetings, fussing over and over and over again. When you and your girlfriends could have put y'all money together, put them shoes away, them Prada sometimes, add a little 10 here, a little 20 there, stop the club and all the stuff, put some of that money together and say, you see that building down the street, babe? Let's go get that. Let's go get that house next door. It's been abandoned for 30 years, and I hear the city is getting it off for $30,000. We can buy that. We put our money together. That's our spot right there. Figure it out. Figure it out. It feels hard because people make it look hard, right? And all these people up here ain't easy. They're not easy. They sound easy in this meeting, but they're not easy. There's people in this building, they're just not easy. Some of them are very difficult to work with, right? They are. And it ain't going to be simple for you to come down. There's no red carpet going to be rolled out for you. Nobody going to be doing dances and saying, welcome, welcome, welcome. You're not getting off the plane in Honolulu. This ain't Fantasy Island. It ain't going down like that. You're going to come in there, and there will be some screw faces. You're going to get some difficulties, some no's, some answers you ain't want to hear, and people going to turn you away. You got to have the determination to show back up the next day, and the next day after that, and the next day after that, and the next day after that, and make these people make their word their bond. That's what you got to do, 100%. Even if you got to wait to see me, you need to find me and make me make my word my bond, and I will certainly make sure that anybody who says something to you, that they stand true to the things that they said. That's real. Have a great meeting, y'all.
before we break and before we go into questions, just in the spirit of partnership, I want to ask anyone to raise their hand that's an entrepreneur or a small business owner and who's willing to partner. I want you to put your hand down if you're not a Newark-based business. So I'm going to ask for 3 sisters that have their hand up to stand and just say your name, your business name, what you do, so that everyone can hear and find some synergy in potential partnership. So we'll start right here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Danielle Watson. I'm from Newark, New Jersey, Rough Rider graduate. I own a business called Watson Realty and Development. We deal in real estate. I am a developer and an investor. I also sell luxury real estate in New York, and I deal with investing on both sides of the Hudson, so New York and New Jersey. We're also always looking for partnerships and things like that. I went back and forth with Keith to get property in Newark recently, so I'm very familiar with the long and difficult process that it is. So if anybody have any questions or anything, I'm still in the process of going through it. I'm always looking to partner with other Black women, to be completely honest with you. It wasn't an opportunity that came to my doorstep when I first got started. I had to start with some Jewish investors. So if anybody wants to get advice or partner, I'm open and willing.
All right, I think we had another hand over here, so we'll just take 2 more quickly.
Hello, my name's Ashley Morgan. I'm actually a transplant here in Newark. I've been here for about 12 years now. I was operating a conference production company out of Newark for the past 9 years, and I actually just formalized my real estate development and investment business last year. I have 1 or 2 multifamily properties, and so looking to build that out and develop that. So I'll be talking to my friend over there after the meeting. You can reach me at ashleymorgan500@yahoo.com if anybody's interested in reaching out.
Great, thank you, Ashley. And we had 1 more.
Good evening. My name is Hawa Kareem. I'm a licensed funeral director for the state of New Jersey, and I own my own funeral home here in Newark, New Jersey. And I'm looking to partner with other contractors and others because I'm looking to purchase property in the city of Newark. So we have a funeral home, which is Islamic Burial Services on Roseville Avenue in Newark. Been there for the last 7 years. We specialize in Islamic burial, but we do take care of everyone. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Good? All right.
Quick plug. Invest Newark's small business development team is in the building. If you have, actually, by show of hands, how many people have attended an Invest Newark training program or business development program? Okay, we got to do better. So what I would love for each of you to consider doing before you leave, please get in contact with a party from our business development team so we can get your information, so we can at least get you on our email distribution list and send you information about some of these programs so you'll know when they're going to take place, and at your leisure and availability, you can attend and get the information you need. All right, have a great evening.
So we'll open it up. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I know we started a little bit late waiting for the mayor, not to throw him under the bus now that he's left, but just wanted to give everybody some time. Did you tell me watch myself?
I said, I'm glad you said
Oh, okay.
She's like, watch out.
So we have a mic, or you can shout, but we'll open it up for any questions.
Good evening. In regards to Invest Newark or even with the central purchasing, are there any opportunities for businesses or small businesses that have e-commerce or have online businesses to be able to benefit from any of the programs that you have?
Sure. I mean, we have no, type of screening around what type of business we help. So depending on your need, whether it's, to learn more about, registering your businesses, licensing your business, certifying your businesses, or just really getting a handle on how you can prepare your business for bank loans or what have you, we have programs that kind of speak to all of the different things. It's really going to be fundamental skills to have in any business that you run.
Similarly with central purchasing, there's no barriers for if you utilize e-commerce. However, for us to award contract, you must have a business registration certificate with the state in order for us to award your contract. So if you do it through e-commerce, that's fine. And there's a lot of technological advancement that's going on now anyway. But you have to be able to answer all the questions just like anyone else and to be registered with the state, okay?
Hi, my name is Stacy. This is a question for Director Ladd. I wanted to know, how do you apply, or is there any eligibility requirements for the neighborhood development program to be eligible for the next cohort?
Good question. So we're working with, we're using the term, they're emerging developers. So developers that are new and trying to get into the business of real estate. And so what I'll do is I'll get your information and I'll connect you with a gentleman in our office, Dwayne Middleton, and he'll be your primary contact and he can give you some more details about what it means. We've seen some of the developers that we're working with have experience with 1 or 2 properties and maybe not some of the larger ones, and they may want to be growing to like 5 or 6. Each of the 9 groups that we're working with have somewhere between 4 and 8 different sites that they're working on now, and they were all awarded during this neighborhood development program.
Hi, my name is Jackie McCoy, and my question also is for Ms. Ladd. How do you access the funds that you were talking about in terms of the $5,000 or the $15,000, and what's the qualifications for that? And with the rehab program, can it be a multifamily home or it has to be a single-family home?
Good questions. So affordability levels for the program, it's 80% of the county median income and below. The county median income is about $60,000 for a family of 4, but we do have that information for you, which we can give you more details. There is an application on our website for both the $5,000 and the $15,000. Sorry, I'll have to look it up for you. I'll get it to you. I'm sorry. I don't know it off the top of my head. Sorry. So the affordability level, the access is on the website, and there's an application which I'll give you the address. And I forgot, did you have one more question? Oh, yes, it's single-family houses, so 4 units and less.
This question, just to offer her question, one of them, is there a geographic restriction? Because I know there's a program where only University Heights homeowners qualify.
This we've seen all across the city. I've seen loans last year in all 5 wards.
Okay, but all right, thank you. Mr.
So the Live Local, the program that you're talking about is Live Local, and that's actually run under the Newark Alliance. And you may have heard me mention earlier, there's incentive dollars for people that work here but don't live here. So there's a pool of funds. Some of those funds are dedicated to provide rental assistance. This is not public funding. This is 100% private funding. So for an individual that maybe works at Prudential or works at Panasonic, if the corporations wanted to incentivize their workforce to live here for a myriad of reasons, and so they're able to tap into a rental incentive. What we wanted to do is offset those incentive dollars with essentially grants for existing homeowners. So in the same catchment area, if you live, it's really University Heights, downtown, and it goes around Lincoln Park. If you live within that catchment area, if anybody wants to look up the specific guidelines, it's just the Newark Alliance website, which is newark-alliance.org. there are specific dollars that are dedicated to existing homeowners to work on the facade or exterior of their homes. There's a lot of controversy around it. There's a lot of pushback. I know there's several of you here that have inquired about the program. The reason why it's a concentrated area is because we wanted to study more about what the impact can be on a non-downtown, non-population dense area. So if we incentivized people that work in corporations to move into the neighborhoods, what we don't want to do is have an adverse effect on and cause any displacement, right? And so the idea was, how do we help drive population density, particularly in the downtown core, because really hyper downtown just doesn't have the same amount of residential supply as the rest of the city. But there is a little bit of a balance there. But the program specifically that you're referencing, that's why there's a geographic boundary for it.
Thank you. My other question was for Mr. Wakefield. You mentioned the completion of the document session, and I know a lot of our men need assistance with that. The first thing that came to my mind was, are you looking for any volunteers that can potentially help these men?
I don't understand the last question. Volunteers.
You mentioned there was a completion of document session coming up.
Yes.
Are you looking for volunteers?
I certainly am. Yes. Yes. The answer is yes. Need all the help we can get, to help them.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Crystal.
Hi. So I just wanted to ask, does Invest Newark or Newark Alliance have options/opportunities for the nonprofits operating in Newark?
The short answer is for the Newark Alliance, no, because the charge and the push was really around the corporations and anchor institutions, although technically some of the anchors are nonprofits. So RWJ Barnabas is a nonprofit, NJPAC, Rutgers, NJIT, but I know what you're saying is really the smaller organizations and how can they benefit. But really the work and the initiatives that come out of the Alliance are meant to specifically address the fact that oftentimes these institutions exist separate and apart from the city. And so those programs are really meant to try to bring them in and encourage a level of engagement that hasn't historically been there.
Testing. Oh, sorry about that. So the answer is yes, because again, a lot of the work you would do in terms of registering your business with the state and so on and so forth is going to be the same whether you have a for-profit or nonprofit. In terms of the land bank, obviously we have not launched yet, but what you will find is that like other land banks throughout the country, there will be specific RFPs and or auction programs that are targeted to nonprofits doing specific community development work in certain neighborhoods, in lockstep with the city's master plan.
Me again. So my fiance and I put together an event a couple years ago and did it last year as well, called The Spot, and we bring like local Newarkers together and they sell goods and services. And it's all minorities, all Newark owned. When we started this process, it was very difficult to get funding. So both years were self-funded. Those financial opportunities, although they sound great, they weren't really offered to us, even when we knocked down doors and things of that sort. Like I said, it sounds nice. My fiance, she's right here, but she owns a very lucrative business, been in business for about 10 years, great capital gains, everything. Her goal recently was to set roots in the city of Newark. So she was put in certain positions where she can talk to certain people to get a brick and mortar. I guess my question is either for you, Aisha, with Newark Alliance, or you, sir, with Invest Newark. Somebody like this who doesn't necessarily need licensing, insurance, everything is all set, but it comes to actually setting roots in the city and having a brick and mortar, but they're charging her like $36 per square foot, which is not reasonable in this city. And she came in with an offer at like $30 per square foot, which is honestly reasonable when you look at the comps. And the person who owns it says, I'm not even gonna send this up to the underwriter because people are coming in at top dollar. Now, for the minorities in this room who want to set up brick and mortars, $30 a square foot should be able to open up a conversation. If you're coming in only asking for top dollar, a lot of these non-Norkers, a lot of these non-minority people are gonna come in and take over those places. Even with the auction list, like, yeah, we could build 80,000 on a property, but if somebody's coming in and bidding 200,000, we're not gonna get that property. So I guess my question is, do you have incentives for people who are small businesses, but not in a position where they're growing their business is there. They just need the space. And a lot of these big companies, Paramount Assets, like all of these big companies charging $1 million to lease out their spaces, and it just does not make sense, especially with us understanding the trajectory of the city, but we're not there yet. So we have to get our feet wet in the situation, and I feel like they're not giving us the opportunity to. So my question is, do you guys offer any incentives for somebody in her position who wants a brick and mortar, but the dollars that they're coming in at just doesn't make sense?
So we are very much aware of this issue because, as you know, because you just stated eloquently, like, you know, one of your biggest capital investments is going to be either your lease payment and or the mortgage payment associated with your building. So one of the strategies that we're definitely focused on as it relates to the land bank, and again, we're not there yet in terms of, as you know, the mayor stated, but it's definitely one of the strategies that we're really focused on is really setting aside inventory and specific disposition programs for neighborhood-based business expansion, right? So to the point you made, and also to the people who have neighborhood businesses that have been in place for 20, 25 years, they want to expand because most people want to live, work in close proximity and shop in close proximity, you know, and there's an adjacent property next door, right? We want to give them the ability to acquire that property at a discount so they can expand, hire more Newarkers, sell more products, and really grow the economy from the neighborhoods in. So it's definitely something that's it's not an unknown in terms of being a problem. We are working on solutions. It does take time, so I appreciate the persistence and patience. And then I know there's some other incentives that you... Oh, sorry. Sorry. I won't put anybody on the spot.
So a couple of things, and I just want to clarify. Unfortunately, the city doesn't have very many incentives, period. The bulk of the incentives exists at the state level. So I'm happy to connect you with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. They have a range of incentive programs specifically for small businesses. There's bonus points specifically for minority or women certified businesses. They're trying to, and these are separate and apart from the incentives that have been going back and forth in the legislature that are tied up. Those are like the big ones that everybody's worried about that are gonna help attract the big corporations. The smaller incentives that are geared specifically for small businesses are active and up and running. So I'm happy to make any introductions to the state's Economic Development Authority. The city is exploring how they can establish a fund to assist with tenant fit out. So your question was really around accessing space. The second part of that we frequently hear about and that the mayor has been pushing us collectively to really come up with a solution around is how do we develop a fund that can specifically assist small businesses with their fit out? Because the first step is accessing the space, and then once you're in there, you're like, wait, how am I going to fit this out the way that it needs to be? So that's something that that specifically is in the works. I don't want to dismiss your comment about where the market is right now and the fact that many property owners and developers are, quite frankly, hopeful, right? And so they're going to try to get the top dollar wherever and however they can. Some developers are more amenable than others. Maybe I'll just leave it at that and say it's worth an offline conversation to figure out the right introductions that we can help make and facilitate. I've helped with lease negotiations, and I probably shouldn't have multiple times. But that's the benefit of these spaces and in building your network and your resources and in actually using them, right? So I'm happy to have an offline conversation with you about some developers that are more amenable than others. Any last questions before we wrap? Two more, okay.
Good evening, my name is Claudia. I'd like to express, first of all, my gratitude for Natasha for putting this meeting together and the speakers for your valuable time and information. I'm interested, Ms. Land, in the Newark 360 plan. Are those meetings open to the public, and when do they start? Have they started, and is there a deadline to where this plan is gonna come together?
Sure. So the Newark 360 plan, we're starting the work now. We will announce the community meetings, and they'll be likely spring, summer, and fall. So you'll see more about it in the spring, summer, and fall about the meetings, and they'll be publicly announced. Second, they are going to be all public meetings. And I should say they're all going to be public meetings, meaning the overwhelming majority of the 360 meetings will be public. There'll be a few that are more stakeholder discussions, so there might be some conversations with developers, conversations with nonprofits, conversations with those that are in the city that may have other interests. So like each of you may have other interests, business or development. So there will be some smaller conversations.
How will we be able to, because you said you're going to have community participation, how will we be able to give you our ideas? Is that going to be online?
Sure. So so why don't I give you my card after the meeting, and then I'll connect you with our planning office. Our planning office is leading it, and they have a team of people that are actually handling all the outreach, and they'll give you more details than I can give you tonight. Sure.
So one thing I just want to underscore, if you're not following the city's social media, if you're not following EHD, Invest Newark, Newark Alliance, and the myriad of other nonprofits, just to stay connected and be sure that you're accessing all of this information. So with the master plan and many other initiatives, the city is going to be working aggressively to make sure that it continues to communicate. We have an amazing new director of communications that's here, Sandra Roberts. But really, I think the key is just trying to stay connected and on top of and following everyone that you can, so that way you can have access to the information. Another very short, quick plug before we go to the last question. There are several initiatives, women-oriented initiatives that come out of City Hall. There's the Commission on the Status for Women. There are these monthly meetings with the Women's Leadership Committee, the Shani Baraka Center, and My Sister's Keeper. My Sister's Keeper leads workshops every second and fourth Saturday of every month. The next one is on March 7th. So they're deeper dive workshops. We'll have the next one on credit building on March 7th. It is in City Hall, in the press office. So just another way to stay involved and stay engaged, but want to make sure that you guys are really taking advantage of all the folks in the room that are trying to share information.
Hello, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Deontay. I am going to direct the question to Mrs. Ladd, but thank you all for sharing the information tonight. I just had a question regarding the RFP for the home funds that was just due last week. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to submit in a timely manner because I found out about it not soon enough, unfortunately. But are you going to have an additional RFP coming up soon?
So yes, just to give others some context, about a month ago at the end of January, our department released a competitive RFP for funding for home funds. Those are the federal funds that can be used for gap financing. And To answer your question, yes, we will have more. I don't know the exact time, but what I know is that we had an incredible demand for the funding. We have about $3 million that we receive. So as Aisha mentioned, a lot of our resources come from the state, but we do have some here locally. So we have about $3 million that are home funds. We had over 100 people and organizations pick up that RFP, and we had about 25 who applied. And so what is going to help us decide and move forward on is how do we ask for more funding? Because it is going to show the real demand. And we haven't had an RFP in some time, so I'm really glad we're doing it because it's just going to help us advocate for more funding, not just at the state or local or federal level, but also in the private sector, because it also helps us explain to our financial institutions that we have development projects here that need funding, and we have people who can make it happen.
I just want to reemphasize that there's a list here of commodities, goods and services that we do from purchasing, and so you can please pick it up, take a look at it when you decide whether your business can provide goods or services to us, right? And it may be something new, and you can convince us that we should do that also, okay? For those that, if it's not enough for everybody, we're going to eventually put it online. You can either come to 828 Broad Street, 3rd floor. I know my staff is not going to like that, but there's the assistant purchasing agent right there, Nadia Davis. She says she has cards, or you can call and come up, okay? But please pick it up and utilize it.
Great, thank you, everyone. Natasha, would you like to close us out?
Yeah, thank you all. We want to thank the panelists for sure. You did an awesome job. Thank you, Aisha, as always. Again, I'd like to thank the mayor for the opportunity to be able to present this information. It was important for us to be able to share this out with the women in and around the city of Newark. I know Mr. Wakefield left some of these here for people who are looking for them, but I always take good information and have it in my office. Most of y'all know where I am, in room 209, and so you can always come and get a copy. I'll make several copies. And I just want to thank you, and we look forward to seeing you on March 26th. That's the state of the city. Oh, thank you. One.